What is up, guys? Wraec is here with a new video, and today with a topic I think about every now and then. I always wanted to make a video about that, and today just felt like the right day, to be honest, and it's about monsters. Monsters have been a thing for quite a long time. It's not really a new topic at all. There have been some small changes in the past, but not too many actually. Around the time I started playing, which was around the Ada release, a few years ago. I'm not even sure how many years ago. Probably some of you guys can tell me in the comments when Ada was released. But around that time, we also received Phoenix, and we received the rune enhancement feature, which caused quite a lot of Reddit posts. I think is one of the things that caused the most Reddit posts ever. Some new player entering any game mode and losing to some 5-star team because of a fully equipped Phoenix on there, giving the entire 5-star team 3.2 million HP and 98k attack, which is something I think, well, it will be less of a case now that we have Treasure Train giving us 100 times basically that attack and HP. So yeah, that's a topic of the past, but that was quite fun. I remember seeing those videos and like, it's a game bug. No, it is not. It's just a guy that played the game way longer and has rune enhancements. And yeah, those stats, well, aside from the speed is obviously still huge, but those attack and HP, that's no longer that relevant. So today, those don't really matter. This does matter, but if you're a new player, obviously, fixed attack, fixed HP, you can take that. That's all right. That's a good thing for the start. But more about that. Later on, we received another monster, which was Nemean. And Nemean is a pretty cool one, by the way. Pretty good effect. And that was basically the last turret. There was another enhancement between Phoenix and Nemean that I can show you guys here. It is the tree that, to my shame, I still have maxed, and I didn't really go for it. 1380% monster damage bonus, which sounds huge, but really, yeah, it isn't. It isn't. And if you want to see the current state of monsters, let me just attack some random noob I have here. That's Daiko. Should probably be an easy win. Nah, he's strong. I fear I have to re-record now. Do I? Victory. Easy. Easy clap, no problem. I would both be losing Nemean. That's quite interesting. And basically, yeah, no heal, no damage. Yeah, we can argue about whether or not Nemean had any impact on the fight. The thing is, well, a lot of monsters don't really do anymore. Nemean, on the other hand, he provides a shield, that's good. Then again, we have Eilermark doing that. Provides holy damage, 40%, which is very major compared to other pets, and damage reduction 20% is also very good. His effect, I would say, still pretty decent. You can use that. Phoenix was one of the most hyped pets when it was released, because he was like really balanced around damage and then heal, which, by the way, they kind of forgot about the heal. The damage increase, I mean, they kind of wanted to keep them in game with a damage increase 1380%, aren't really doing it anymore. You barely see any monster do more damage than any hero you place on the board. They are no longer any threat whatsoever. In the past, you used to see when the monster dealt damage to the enemy and you thought like, okay, hopefully it doesn't hit that one support hero that is kind of squishy. That's no longer the case. And the heal was once pretty major on Phoenix, actually. I remember people saying, yeah, use him on your team and you don't really need like a balance strike or any other form of heal. And I used to do that when I did Flame Shrine in the past. And then the Phoenix heal was kind of huge to have. Now that's 500,000 HP. And there is kind of a problem with that. We can take a look at that problem. That's one of my support units with 2 billion HP. Yeah. So that's kind of a problem. 500,000 won't really do it there. So the heal is absolutely irrelevant. There is no scaling to that other than, well, effect of being healed, obviously, on the heroes. But there is no way to scale that up to any tree or something you could upgrade to get more heal from your monsters. It just doesn't exist. Same for the other bonus effects, of course. 80% damage to burning target, though, still a pretty decent one. So the one aspect are really those effects. And some of those are still pretty good. I would say Phoenix is still pretty good. Burn we can inflict that. That works out. Same for Snake and Wolf, really. Both of those have similar effects. The Snake more around damage dealing, but we have the damage to poison targets, and then we have Wolf, which is like damage to bleeding targets. All of those are alright, because just inflicting a dot, getting more damage, that works, that is okay. Not something we really strive for, though. I rarely see people like saying, okay, I make my team in a way that I inflict a poison dots so that I can deal damage. You only ever see that really in Star Expeditions. It's not really a PvP thing. I rarely see somebody say that, okay, I have MFF in my team, so I will probably have poison, then I will go for that. No, really in PvP, you mostly see people go for the secondary stats, which are another topic that we will come to in a second. And those are really the good pets. We have Nemean, we have Phoenix, we have like the Snake, and we have the Wolf, and those are really the good ones. And then there is like the second grade pet, which I would say neither orc is part of. Increase our 4 random allies 75% of holy damage, which isn't necessarily bad. 75% of holy damage is kind of a lot. But then again, you can have holy damage from other sources. Well, you can't have that damage against poison target buff from other sources. You know, there are some passive skills that provide that buff, but actually in the code that's a different buff, and that's calculated separately. If you get that buff from the monster, that's a different buff than the buff you get from your passive, so those are separate. While this holy damage is just holy damage, which is a stat we already have, which we can get from different sources, and is sometimes even a secondary stat, not on this but on Phoenix we actually get holy damage. Here we also have a stun chance. I rarely see those monsters stun heroes nowadays, though. We have a lot of passive control immunity from different sources like Starspawn's Train, so that's a problem in itself again. Still, that's a pet I wouldn't be too confused if I saw somebody use it. I would say, okay, it's like for the crit, it's like for the holy damage, that's okay. Same for the Fox, honestly. That doesn't have the most insane effect, but on some teams, people use it to just gain that little bit of energy restoration that we have here. If you have like a double CC team or something, people tend to run that. Not the biggest fan of it, but if you run like an energy feed team, you get the pet actors reasonably often. So I guess it's alright to get a little bit more energy from that. And then we have the ones that are like completely dead. And yeah, you rarely see this one. Them armor reduce. Speed reduce is still decent. I think during some speed metas in PvP, I saw people use things. And then when the attack buff is, okay, we can take it, but there are so many sources of percent attack that this one doesn't really matter. But still, this is like, I would call it bad for the current meta at least. Maybe with the speed meta it has more of a chance. And then we have the completely dead one, which are those two. Especially the Stone Golem. Stone Golem is probably the worst pet in the game, I would argue. Like, at least the effect here. 36% chance to petrify, which we already talked about during the stuns, like, doesn't really work too often. If it would CC very often, that could actually be a threat, to be honest. Meanwhile, increases 4 random allies 75% of crit damage in a time, well, at least in endgame PvP, we have crit damage capped. Nearly all of the time. And you wouldn't really build around that, would you? Like, I mean, crit damage you can get up to 150%, so that you get to the 350% crit damage cap. It's like 150% you can get through buffs. So you would have to be at like 75% crit damage to make use of all of that crit damage you get from that monster, which is a state you like never really want to be in it. So if you encrypt like a crit damage imprint, you will be above that. I think that is really a relic from the time where we had like normal heroes that didn't really have innate crit damage necessarily, so they could make use of that. There weren't many sources of crit damage unless you put like a Punisher staff on heroes, which is, by the way, another artifact that is rarely used unless you use like Starving Jar to burst through enemies in Void Campaign, but yeah. And I think that's why Stone Golem, yeah, kind of bad. I think it would have been actually better if they did what they did to the next pet, even though I think that's already quite bad. And that is the Apparition. Apparition also has basically the same as Stone Golem, but with freeze. But here they did something interesting. They said, meanwhile increases 4 random allies 100%, 20% of damage against frozen targets. And if you say now, well, we got 80% only on Phoenix, and here it is 120%, no idea why people don't use Apparition. Well, kind of the reason is that it is way harder to freeze a target, which is a CC effect, than it is to burn a target, which is just a damage over time effect. And also, bosses can't be frozen, so, well, we only really have the option to buff our damage there by inflicting a dot and using Phoenix, the Wolf, or Snake Pet. Still, that would have been a bit more interesting, given that this can petrify, and I think it might even have seen some use. I can see that work in a sense. I'm not sure it's necessarily worth it to go for an effect like this, because it is very situational, but I could maybe, if that damage buff was strong enough, this 120% damage buff, if that really maybe was even more, I have never really seen that work out here, but if it was a bit more, maybe we would have seen some teams using it, especially given that we have a hero that can petrify and CC on a large scale now, and that is, of course, it is Starwing Jara I'm talking about. And if we check out Starwing Jara, we have like Petrify, Rocklock, Freeze, Cold Chill, each with their own area where they are inflicted. 25% chance to inflict Petrify Rocklock to enemies whose current AP are no less than 50%. So probably if the Stone Golem had the could inflict or give us 120% bonus damage against petrified targets, I think he might have even seen some use. Maybe I could see like a fast Starwing Jara and then like an Aspen, and having that Aspen get the Stone Golem buff, CCing with Starwing Jara to get Petrify on all the heroes, and then bursting with Aspen or something. That is something that I could see and would be cool, but again, I think we need a higher damage buff for that. And maybe a rework. Well, on the Stone Golem, most certainly we would need a rework. So, then the last pet we didn't really look at is this one. That's like the deer. It has percent HP heal, which is good. Percent armor fell a little bit apart considering, well, we made a recent video about how it is pretty easy now to get 100% armor break, which would fully negate this buff. 15% attack can't keep up with other pet buffs. So yeah, like, we have better sources of heal now, and we have easy sources of heal. We have like SQH, which just can heal all of your heroes back up to full life at the end of a round, basically, if you invest into sublimations and into HP. We have Ferrokin Vesa, doesn't even need a home if you have some treasure train to heal your whole team to full life again. So I think Deer fell a little bit off the meta and doesn't really provide that kind of sustainability or survivability that it used to. And I know there were some teams around that used Deer really to the extent to survive. And that was pretty cool. And kind of the point is, I would really love to see that again. Not necessarily the Deer, but some more impact of monsters. Some way where monsters play a role. One more aspect I have to talk about shortly. We have those stats here. Those are different for every single monster. They are applied to every single hero. We get armor and block here, which are the major stats. Some 40 speed again, which is good. Attack HP, and most monsters have attack HP, and then maybe we look at two stats. Armor block here. We can look at the Fenrir, at the Wolf, and its armor break precision. 20% armor break is actually quite major. And some of those stats are really nice. I like the armor break. If you're not capped on armor break and you have like maybe at 80% or something, you can get an easy cap with that, 20%. Most of the time, people called Phoenix actually good because we have crit damage, holy damage, two major damage stats, and that is what really made Phoenix stand out. On Nemean, actually, it's holy damage, crit damage reduction. It is more of a defensive pet, still 20 holy damage, very nice. Crit damage reduction, 15%. One of the new stats that the implementation of crit damage reduction is a topic for another video. Still, it can be quite strong, so that's good. And we have different stats here. And some of those really fell out of the meta. It's not necessarily precision and holy damage, though I don't really like precision. Some of which is like 20% skill damage. Yeah, that is from the time where 20% skill damage was a lot, where you had like heroes like Ice Blink, basically, when we can take a look at that. Ice Blink, maybe not even 10 star, maybe 9 star, we can look at 10 star now. 148, and adding 20% to that is huge. And if we are looking at 9 stars, which we don't really have here, we can look at 6 stars, though that should be the same active skill, right? That's too long ago that I had to think about that topic. Is like 120%. So yeah, like adding 20% to that is huge. Adding 20% now to a hero, I don't know, like let's take a look at LFA, for example. 800% of attack damage with sublimation, we are already at 1200. So 20% is nothing there. There's really nothing there. And that is saying we want skill damage, and still that skill damage is no good. So what is really the solution for all of this? We talked for 15 minutes now about pets and which pets I like. I want to see them relevant. I want to see it worth it to maybe make at least small changes to a team to make the monster work. Do I want it in a way that we kind of have to build our teams around the monster? Nah, not really. But I want to make it worth it to focus a little bit on it and to give some thought into which monster use. And I want to see those dead monsters like the Stone Golem. I want to see them revived. So a little bit of a rework would be nice. Maybe implemented in a way that we can click on a monster with some resources from Void Campaign or something and enhance them a bit more. And I'm not talking about like a stat increase, maybe more like an awakening, though I think that would be, well, like a huge investment into a monster to awaken them. Kind of interesting and a bit weird in a way. But maybe the age could make that work. And what I really want to see, though, if they do that, then I want to see a design change. That would be very important. And also, if you do a design change, that would be a great opportunity to set something else right, because DH kind of made a monster contest for a boss enemy, and then they used that boss enemy for like one event. And I know, I saw Reddit post, the artist is not too happy about that. So maybe nice opportunity to make the awakened form of Fenrir that wonderful monster this man designed, because that monster, well, I think it looks like awakened Fenrir. So it would be a great opportunity to set that right, and maybe to give some thought into all of these monsters, like to change the heal, to do all of that stuff, and maybe give us a relevant form of those monsters. And that would be kind of cool. And I would love to see that. At least I would love to see a little bit of a rebalancing. That would be the smallest thing. Doesn't even need to be like a whole huge new level to that, but maybe just a rebalancing patch. That would be alright as well. But I guess DH kind of likes when people have a resource they can spend towards something, and why not monsters in that way? So, write your thoughts down. I didn't really talk a lot about what abilities I would like to see on those monsters. Just a few of those. Maybe you have some great ideas for monsters as well. Feel free to write those in the comments. Maybe DH sees the video and changes some things. Would be kind of great. So in any way, I wish you guys a great day, and we will see us in the next one.